Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Martone.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to dive in.
Me too. So I'm really intrigued. We have not had a chiropractor yet on the show. However, I love chiropractic work, and I also believe that it can help a lot with the nervous system. And I often talk about the nervous system and how that impacts fertility. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And before we get started, I would love for you to give us a bit about your background and how you got into the work that you do, and especially when it comes to sleep.
Yeah, wow. That's it's a big zigzag. A lot of
It
times
always is.
we
It
zigzag our
always
way.
is.
I never woke up one day and said, oh, you know what? I'm going to be in the most exciting field of my life. I'm going to be in the sleep industry. It was so boring. But, I'm a chiropractor. I'm an exercise physiologist, a nutritionist. I've always loved to help people improve their functioning quality of life by changing their lifestyle. So I was big on helping people what's called balance the autonomic nervous system. So there's in our system we have organs. And our organs are typically not controlled by the conscious nerves. They're controlled by autopilot stuff, which is the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. So what I found a long time ago is that most people, when they have chronic illness or dysfunction, they have an imbalance within that autonomic nervous system. So I spent a good part of my first 15 years in practice helping people balance their autonomic nervous system until finally, and I always had pain. I always had a bad back, which isn't really what brought me to chiropractic. What brought me to chiropractic is I got adjusted once and my stomach problem went away. And I'm like, if I'm a chiropractor, I have a bad spine, and I was in a little bit of an injury mountain biking, and I finally herniated my disc. So I was in the emergency room. I'm sitting there saying, how can it come to this? I've been helping people with back pain and wellness, and I'm now hooked up on Dilaudid because I'm in the emergency room because my back finally failed. And in your own brain, at a subconscious level, I felt like I was a failure because I'm like, how can I not help myself? So not a really good place to be. And then, so out of big lows, a lot of times you can learn from those. And I have a very competitive mind. So I'm like, I got to figure this out. I have to figure out why I had disc issues and back problems. So I started reviewing x-rays. I reviewed 3,000 x-rays and I found a pattern. And that pattern was I had loss of cervical curve in my neck, and due to an adaptation, which I found is that it adapts with what's called the psoas major muscle spasm in your lower back, and the psoas attaches directly to a disc. So I'm like, holy mackerel, maybe I had a neck issue, no pain in my neck. Maybe I had a neck issue all this time, and it was messing with my lower back. So I'm like, well, how do I fix that? I've been getting adjusted. I'm like, the only time I can do it is a 1/3 of my life. I basically do nothing, and that's sleeping. So I started to I was always a side sleeper. I curled up in a ball, and my back was always twisted. I had shoulder issues. And I'm like, you know what? I bet you it's alignment when I'm sleeping. So I started to put pillows under my neck, and I started to force myself to sleep in a specific position, which we now call the corrective sleeping position. Then once I started to have my patients sleep in those positions, now their chronic issues I've been dealing with, they're needing me so much less because their body's healing really at night while they sleep, which now another 10 years later, I am in the sleep industry after 25 years of zigzag, right?
That's so interesting. And so how have you noticed that impact? Well, actually, let's take it back to why chiropractic works, not just for the spine. I think people think, just like you said, you went for back pain or for the stomach pain, or you ended up getting your stomach issues resolved. People may not realize that chiropractic work can impact internal organ systems and other things other than just your back.
Yeah, so let's look at, so this is going to be a really different way for people to think, okay? But I'm going to make it and break it down into a very simple analogy. If you go into a room and there are lights in the room. And then you take the dimmer switch and you dim the switch down to 50%, and somebody walks into this room, they're like, wow, it's not light in this room. Now what you would do is you go to the dimmer switch and you turn it up. Well, now in our current paradigm, people don't even look at the dimmer switch as the problem. They look at the light bulb, which is the organ. Nobody's
Right.
looking at the
Yeah.
nervous system going to that organ. They all
Mhm.
look at the organ. So they'll put new bulbs in there. They'll put a transformer in there that puts more energy at the bulb. When the pressure, the dimmer switch being down is an issue. So the spine is basically your fuse panel to the body. And it's set up where these nerves come out of these holes in the spine. And if the spine's out of alignment, or your hips out of alignment, or your neck's out of alignment, and you have these curves, you're putting pressure on a nerve. And there's research that's been done. Pressure equal to the weight of a quarter on a nerve will cause a nerve to malfunction by 60%, leaving it
Wow.
only with 40% function. So think about that. If the nerve is only functioning at 40%, how can the organ be healthy? And nobody
Right.
on the planet looks at that as cause of disease except chiropractic. Everybody looks at it like, oh, you just get your spine adjusted because you're in pain. I was never in the industry for pain. And I tell my patients, listen, I'm a little different. I said, I want to help you with the pain, but if you're walking with one shoe on and one shoe off, you're going to have back pain. If I just focus on your back and I don't fix the imbalance,
Right.
then you're just going to be dependent on what I do. And that's the same thing now when we help our clients with chronic illness and fertility and breathing issues and digestion issues. The first thing we do is align the spine, turn up the dimmer switch, then we see what happens in internal organs.
Interesting. And so what I know that obviously, because I know in Chinese medicine there's so many different reasons that cause one thing. So we look at the root cause. For fertility conditions, what have you seen so far?
That is so great. So that's a great question. Now, within our sleep system, we the I guess you can say the crust that connects all the other, like, everybody give anything that most of the experts tell you, you can Google, right? Oh yeah, room temperature and beds and all this stuff. It's all Googleable. But the crust that holds all of the missing piece is the crust. And that's, we live our life through our nervous system.
Mhm.
And everything we say, do, function, and feel happens through that system. So when you look at fertility, don't look at it as the infertility as the issue. That's the outcome.
Right.
Look at it as, okay, what controls fertility? People would say hormones. Right. What controls hormones? Nervous system. Okay. What specific nervous system? That nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is your thrive nervous system versus your survive nervous system, which is your sympathetics. So you can either run from a tiger and you're in survive because your body needs to get away from it, or you can sleep and thrive. So our bodies thrive at night and survive during the day. So it needs to be a balance. The three systems that are controlled by your thrive system, and when you have infertility, you have an issue with all three of these systems. It's immune system, its digestive system, and its reproductive system. So anybody that has an issue with one or of them has an issue with all three of them, because you have an issue with parasympathetic inhibition. So it's not that you're just all sympathetic dominant because you're super excited. You're inhibited because your dimmer switch is down 50% and nobody's addressing it. So most of the time what we see with our patients that have infertility, they have issues at the atlas, which is right at the brainstem. And it's due to loss of function there, or it's down in the coccygeal plexus, which is in the coccyx, which is in the pelvis. So a lot of times there's pain associated, but there's also digestion issues, there's eczema, there's skin issues, there's all of these other issues, but all that's telling us is the nervous system imbalance.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you pointed behind the ears because that's where you can stimulate the vagus nerve.
Correct. That is the reason why, because it's through
Okay.
the carotid sheath. There's three nerves that go through there. It's the vagus, the glossopharyngeal, and the spinal accessory. So a lot of times, if a woman has infertility, she has definitely lost the cervical curve, but her hands might fall asleep, or she has a thyroid issue also because of that forward posture, or she gets reflux because of the upper portion of the stomach is also addressed by the carina, which is the cough reflex.
Interesting. And do you see this for men as well?
I do, but a different manifestation of symptomatology. A lot of times that's going to be low testosterone. That's going to be like, especially with men with the prostate is a big issue at that area. But women, a lot of times will have it. We're seeing it now more than ever in women. I have my own theories on it. Actually, I believe it's COVID vaccine, but we're seeing a lot of heart palpitations. So we're seeing a lot of imbalance within the arrhythmia of the heart. That's why I have these rings on. I always measure my heart rate variability, and that's what
I love that. The heart math.
Coach my clients. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So talk about that. I talk about it a lot too, but I always like to get different perspectives because I feel like even if it's the same topic, if somebody else talks about it, you might get something different. So
this is so great. So So just to understand what heart rate variability is your heart needs to beat. And when you're running from a tiger, your body wants a very rhythmic beat so that the muscle and the brain can really consistently know the amount of sugar that the organs are getting, right? So so when you're sympathetic dominant, which means you're in survival, you have a very rhythmic heart rate, which means if you, let's say, have a heartbeat of 60 beats per minute, every second you have a beat. And that's what people think is good. That is really bad to have that chronically because you put the same stress on the heart and the heart will fail. So when you're in thrive or you're parasympathetically dominant, your body is ready for anything. So the heart rate is very irregular intervals. So instead of every second, maybe it's 0.75 seconds. Then the next one is 1.1 second. Then the next one's 0.5 seconds. Then the next one's 0.8 seconds. So it's dun, 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 dun. So you're spreading the stress around the heart, which is a very healthy thing to do for the heart. But what that's telling us is when your heart rate variability is high, you're parasympathetic dominant. When your heart rate variability is low, you're sympathetic dominant. So most people that have dysfunction, especially in the autonomic nervous system or in the parasympathetic nervous system, like fertility, they're going to have low HRV readings because they're going to be sympathetic dominant, whether it's due to parasympathetic inhibition because you're putting pressure at the brainstem on the vagus nerve, or it's due to you just so stressed that you never turn this on into weak muscle. Whether it is, you can analyze that through these trackers. And then we can then, let's say, meditate and then connect the subconscious brain to a scent every time you meditate, and then take a heart rate variability reading, and then know what improves your heart rate variability during the day, then connect you to a scent any other time. That's a scent. So when you smell the scent, your HRV comes down, and then you can start to retrain the subconscious brain.
It's an association.
Brain. Yes.
That's interesting because I've said that before. That's what in India they used to put the incense on during meditation. So immediately when you smell it, it puts you in that state so that it's quicker to get into a deeper state of meditation. And it's kind of interesting how really the heart becomes so adaptive when we're in this rest and digest mode, the parasympathetic. And it's also more creative in a sense because it's not, it doesn't act predictably. It's creative based on the needs.
And that's your brain becomes creative when you
and your body becomes creative.
The mind becomes creative because you're taking the blood from what I call the immature, ignorant child brain, right? Or the dumb
reptilian brain.
Yeah, reptilian brain. And it starts to transfer it to where you can get true inspiration and innovation, and that's in the back portion of the brain. So you can start to think better. And consequently, if my daughter's now working on one of my companies, and she's like, Dad, I don't get it. What's mindset mastery? Because we have 5 core elements of sleep. I'm like, honey, mindset mastery is like everything, right? If you can master your thoughts, remember, thoughts create an adaptation within the nervous system. So
Hmm.
if you want to be sympathetic dominant, fear, anxiety, financial stress, relationship stress, hate, envy, those are sympathetic emotions. If you want parasympathetic emotions, focus on gratitude, love, caring, prayer, those are parasympathetic emotions. So if you can master the mind and focus the thought, which you can, then you can focus the neurology, which is the real step in bringing back control in chronic illness.
So fascinating. I love this topic and I love how you could look at it in so many different ways, but there's so many different schools of thought and they all kind of point to the same thing, even like ancient teachings and then now some of the current research that's coming out. And it's fascinating because it really is something that can be measured, like you said, with the heart rate variability and also the heart brain coherence, and that they do actually communicate. There's a communication between the two, and the fact that people do have a choice in this, I think that that is often missed. I think that people don't realize that they actually have a choice.
Yeah, and I think that that is a great way to say it, right? You do have a choice. And like I told my daughter, I'm like, you have a choice on what to think, right? And what we focus on is what we become. When you're looking, like, think about this. So we haven't even talked about sleep. I've only talked about my intention. My
Right.
intention is balance, the autonomic nervous system, and health. Because sleep is, you can't just put your head on a pillow, buy a new buy a new pillow, buy a new bed, buy a new sleep supplement, and get better sleep. So what we talk about is who do you have to become to do what you need to do during the day, and then
Hmm.
sleep is a byproduct of living a healthy life. And
Right.
our intention is everything. Our intention is balance in the nervous system. Yes, I want to help you sleep, but I didn't enter the sleep industry to make you a better sleeper. I'm there now. I entered the sleep industry to allow you to become a healthier individual. So who are you when you're waking up? I want that to be a better version of you, a more energetic version of you. So we have this animal sleep avatar test that we have people take. It's a free test. And what animal do you sleep like? And then based on what animal you sleep like, I can give you the tips specific to how you sleep and tell you how you need to fall asleep, because each animal needs to fall asleep differently.
That's fascinating. So I'd love to hear how you approach sleep altogether, like how your method works to doing that. You'd mentioned obviously figuring out really how you sleep, what
Okay.
type of animal, but how do you really help people? What are the different steps you take them through?
So think about let's look at sleep as an analogy. This is an analogy that we're actually putting into our Way Better Sleep program now. Is think about it as a battery charger. Okay. First thing you do with the or a charger is you have setup. So you first have to set it all up, plug it in, right? You have to, do a whole bunch of stuff for setup. Setup is how you fall asleep. Okay. I have 3 steps. It's called the Triune of sleep. So we put people to sleep. Then we have the 5 core elements of sleep, which is when you're sleeping, are you waking up refreshed? How much is your energy being recharged? Are you only recharging from 0 to 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75, or are you waking up like me? You are freaking ready for the day because your battery is so full. So most of the time, where it's too complicated to dive into the 5 core elements because there's just so much that you have to do. It's be, do, have. It's changing your life, eating right, being fit, and thinking well. So we have different roadmaps on every month. We change a different lifestyle habit to make somebody become healthier and then a better sleeper. But I think really where the most applicable advice I can give you right now is the setup in talking about what we call the triune of sleep. Now, this is what 99% of the people on the planet get wrong. And this is why really my first step was figuring out the triune, and then the other step, is different. So the triune of sleep is this. You have 3 things at play when you're falling asleep. You have the body, the needs of these three things: the needs of the body, the needs of the subconscious brain, and then the needs of the conscious brain. Okay. The body wants alignment. It just doesn't want to be in pain. It needs to be in a pain-free situation. The average person tosses and turns 20 to 40 times a night because the body's in pain. That's it. That's why we toss and turn. So the next thing is the subconscious brain. The subconscious controls sleep. The body pain will interfere with sleep, but the subconscious controls sleep. The subconscious need is safety. The body just wants to feel safe and protected. I grew up in Malden, Massachusetts, and it was on a busy street. And every once in a while, the kids would bang on my window to play a prank. I was on the front porch. So I thought when I went to sleep, I was going to get abducted every single night. So the only reason I would be able to fall asleep is I'd have to put all my stuffed animals around me. I'd curl up in a ball to feel safe. Then I would be able to fall asleep. So think about that when you put your kids to sleep. Their subconscious need for sleep, and the reason why they want to sleep with you, is safety. And now the conscious brain, it's where everything screws up. It's like, oh my God, I want to feel comfortable. You're not comfortable because the body isn't comfortable. What you mistake for comfort is safety for the subconscious brain. So the conscious brain screws everything up. So we have a whole host of things that we do to get people mindset mastery, to get them out of their consciousness. So we can go over some of those. So to set most people put themselves to sleep with their conscious brain thinking they're comfortable. We want to reverse the triune. Put the body in an aligned position. I'll show you that in a second. It's called the corrective sleeping position. This position inherently is unsafe for the subconscious brain. That is where people take an animal sleep avatar test to develop, to identify the amount of safety that needs to be created by each avatar. So you have a gorilla, an armadillo, and an ostrich. The ostrich, it wants to stick its head under the ground, right? It is so timid. That's where abuse relationships, those are timid people that need so much safety created. When you sleep, it's going to be very difficult to get them to sleep in an aligned position. Then you have the armadillos, which are like 60% of the population. They need safety, but they curl up in balls. They like to have their, on their side with that pressure on their face.
That's me.
And then I can tell because your head's tilted. And then when you,
is it?
It is. And then the gorillas, they can fall asleep anywhere. So depending on what avatar you are, then we give you advice and tips based on your avatar.
My husband's a gorilla.
Yeah. Right.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
With his mouth open.
And then from there, then we teach you to shut down the conscious brain.
Got it. That's interesting. So what's the proper position?
All right. Is this on video?
Well, it is for some people.
Okay. So then what you'll do is
you guys can check it out on YouTube if you want to check this out.
And then you explain what I'm doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the position is typically. Hold on, I've shorted out.
Okay, he's moving away from his mic, so I'll have to explain. Okay.
All right. What I have right now is I have a neck nest. That's the pillow we created, but you can do this with a soft down pillow or any type of pillow.
So he's got basically a pillow that looks like it's going to support his neck, right?
Right. Yep. So the one thing with sleep is, or anytime you support something in the body, you weaken it. That's why, sneakers or arch supports, it weakens the foot. Back support weakens the back. Chair support weakens the back. A pillow defined as a support for your head. Anytime you support your head, you weaken the cervical curve. So what you want to do is you want to support the neck, but let the head hang off the back of the pillow so it's not supported. And
so basically just have a pillow for your neck.
Yep. And then you don't want the head supported because the weight of your head will cause a sense of distraction, and that distraction will reinforce the curve in the neck, aligning it, improving vagal tone, improving the function of the vagus nerve. So just by sleeping in this position, you're going to improve heart rate variability by 10 to 30%.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so he's basically laying on his back, and he's got something that looks like a bolster, but it's soft and it surrounds his neck. He has it supporting his neck, and it surrounds on the side, and then his head is not supported behind it. It's just laying back.
Yes, and that's the design that we created with the neck nest. So I'll show you now how to do it with like a down pillow. It has to be a soft pillow. This is what I used before we created the neck nest. So I would put pillows on their edges. And see, a pillow is support for your head. You do not want to support your head when you're sleeping on your back. You want to support your neck and allow the head to hang off the back.
Okay. So now he's using it with a pillow, but having the pillow on its side. So it's basically not laying flat. And it's a very soft pillow. So he's able to adjust it.
The weight of your head is unsupported. That is really, really, really important.
That's interesting. I'm going to try that.
It's
I'm going to try that.
That's awesome.
So you got to train yourself to be a back sleeper.
Yes. Well, you have to train yourself to fall asleep in that position. Remember, when you are trying to start to get to that type of mindset where you got to be a back sleeper, you're not in control. All you have to train yourself to do is fall asleep in that position and go take your animal avatar test, and then it'll tell you how you need to create safety to start in that position, because you won't be able to shut off the brain. Actually, you know what? Let me give you another tip, because this is important. If you're going to start to fall asleep in this position, a lot of times people will feel like they're falling backwards, or they'll lose their breath because their body does not like that extension because of the vestibule. You feel like you're unsafe. You're
not supported.
Yeah. Your body's brain or balance system doesn't like it. So you can use either a bed wedge or something and sleep slightly sitting up. Another way that I do this.
So he's saying to put a bed wedge, if that's the case, if it makes you feel uncomfortable or not safe and supported, you can use a bed wedge, and then on top of that, use that neck support that he was mentioning before.
If you don't have a bed wedge, which a lot of people don't, you can put 2 pillows. See how I have 2 pillows down there?
Yeah, so instead of a bed wedge, you could put 2 pillows to support your back.
And then put the neck nest on the back pillow. And then you're sleeping elevated.
Got it. Yeah, so you could elevate yourself to make that an easier way to fall asleep.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You got me curious.
That
helps your vagus nerve, and it helps get you in parasympathetic mode, which helps your hormones and gets you in creative mode, which, of course, the physical creativity is your fertility.
And that you can't Google.
No.
Right?
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So how can people find this, or really find out how to learn all of these amazing techniques?
They can go to DRSLEEPRIGHT. That's drsleepright.com. They can take a free animal sleep avatar test. And then you're in our world. You'll get anytime we do like sleep things, you can do that. And then there you can find out about our programs. And then if you want to dive deeper and look into Neck Nest, you can get a link to Neck Nest from there.
That's so interesting. Dr. Peter Martone, this is really, really fascinating. I've never had anybody come on here and talk about it with also, first of all, talk about this subject, but also with such a unique approach to sleeping.
Yeah, thank you. It's we put a lot of sleepless nights into it, and now it's it's act two. It's my mission is to change the way the world sleeps, helping them get way better sleep. And the way is awakening the full potential of a well-rested, aligned you. And the you is important. It's who do you need to become to have be the best version of you. And
Yeah.
it's not I want to have it, right? I want to have better sleep. Then you're just going to go from what to what to what to what to what.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
who do you need to become to change your mind to be able to get there?
Yeah. And so, really, the idea is getting into that state, and the new habits will help you stay asleep.
It's amazing how it once you start to work on the drills of the 10-minute sleep ritual, which is putting yourself to sleep for the setup, then the 5 core elements of what you do during the day is fun, because now you're just becoming healthier, and then
Right.
everything you
Feel
do
more
during the
rested.
day is going to make you a better sleeper. As long as you get this, you don't plug the charger in,
Then you're grumpy. You don't
yeah,
want to learn anything.
yeah, exactly.
We don't want to be grumpy.
No
We want
way.
to feel good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing this amazing information. And so you gave him the email. The website? Is there any other place that people can find you or learn more?
We're on Instagram at Dr. Sleep Right. We're on TikTok now. We just
Oh,
had
nice.
one thing go over 1 million views.
Oh, cool.
It's at Dr. Sleep Right. So Dr. Sleep Right is the brand that you'll be able to find me on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Martone, for coming on today. This is a great conversation.
Thank you for having me.